Hi everybody and welcome. Welcome to our session. Thank you very much for joining us today. My name is Richard Halkett. I'm the Chief Customer Officer at Pervasive Systems, and we've got a fascinating session for you today on pervasive AI, where we're going and how you compete. I've got a great panel that I'll be introducing to you in a moment. But first of all, I think, understanding the buzz that we're feeling today at TechCrunch, it's great to feel the energy this year. But generative AI and AI in general is really on everybody's mind. But this feels like the hype and the excitement and the potential is really here to stay. So why is that? Why do we feel that? Well, first of all, it's almost a year ago that we saw ChatGPT went to 100 million users in 2 months, which is multiple times faster than any other technology we've seen before. So this really does feel like the fastest industrial revolution in history. But we're also seeing really interesting signs from the market. I read a report from Accenture which said that 97% of enterprise leaders believe that generative AI is going to be transformative. Now, 97% is not a statistic that you see very often. That basically means everybody. So it's extraordinary that we're seeing this right now. And they believe that 40% of working hours are going to be changed, transformed by generative AI. And we're also seeing this. So in another report, Deloitte said that 37% of businesses are already investing heavily in generative AI, and that we're seeing, and this again came from Accenture, that next year 67% are going to ramp those budgets. So this is a fascinating place to be if you're a startup, if you're an investor, if you're a customer in an enterprise pioneering. But it is complicated as well. Right? We all know that AI is a relatively new technology that's exploded onto the scene in the last 12 to 18 months, and it's complicated. So we see these gigantic models, they're getting larger and larger. They take a long time to train. They take thousands of chips as well, and that all adds up to millions of dollars of investment. So if we see all of this potential with AI, and yet we see all of this challenge, how are we actually going to tread that path and ensure that we achieve that potential? So today, I've got a panel of 3 folks who are going to be helping me triangulate this problem. So first of all, I've got Rodrigo Liang, who's the co-founder and CEO of Pervasive Systems. Welcome, Rodrigo.
Thank you.
We've got Alan Lee, who's the Chief Technology Officer of Analog Devices. And we've got Dave Municello, who leads GV's digital investing team. So I'm going to be asking them some questions. We're going to be getting into this, and hopefully we'll come up with some decent insights and answers. All right. So first of all, Rodrigo, I'm going to come to you, if I may. This term, pervasive AI, and the fact that we're seeing AI really change in the market, what do you see? What opportunities do you see? What challenges do you see?
We're at a point in our journey here where people moving from talking about specific models, a GPT or stable diffusion, to think about how to solve real problems. And so the term pervasive AI is thinking about how to deploy AI pervasively in our everyday lives, right? And so solving real issues for HR, for legal, for finance, or software development, versus talking about, is GPT this better than GPT that? And so you're going to see over the coming years that people are going to start thinking about how to take the technology that we are now quite familiar with, continue to improve it, but really think about how do we integrate it into the everyday work environment. But the challenges, as you say, we're starting to see this year with security, with privacy, with accuracy, hallucinations, as we're all familiar with. How do we tackle those? And that's something that we as an industry, we as people in the technology field have to think about how to tackle them so that this technology can be pervasively deployed and be used in every company and in every single one of our lives.
Thanks, Rodrigo. So, Alan, I'm going to turn to you, right? So, first of all, tell us a little bit about Analog Devices and what your interest is in AI and some of the opportunities and challenges that Rodrigo spoke to there.
Sure. Analog Devices is a technology company that really bridges our physical and digital worlds. We're a global leader in analog, digital, and mixed signal technologies, and we work at the forefront of the intelligent edge. Our solutions, they really transform signals into actions and actionable insights. And similarly, AI can transform data into insights in support of manufacturing, engineering, sales, and most importantly, our customers. And that's really the point. Our collaboration with Samba Nova can really provide us with the means of understanding and connecting with our customers on a deeper level than ever before.
Okay, thank you. And Dave, you've been involved in this space a long time before it was fashionable, and and you have a great view across as an investor, right? So you're trying to look at the trends in the market. You're looking at all the startups that are coming through, right? You're looking at some of the incumbents and the market dynamics. What are you seeing that in the market, and what's changing right now?
Yeah, so at GV, we've been involved in artificial intelligence investing and using it in our own business for more than a decade. I don't know if it's fashionable now. I look at this group. No, but it's definitely popular. And so I think one of the things that has been amazing over the last year and a half is ChatGPT has really educated the whole world about how exciting AI can be for almost every use case. And so that has done two major things. On one hand, it has created a ton of innovation and opportunity for innovation. So we see this whole room full. We see dozens and dozens, hundreds of startups trying to find new opportunities to explore using AI. But we also see almost every large company bolting AI onto their existing products. And as a result, those big, large companies, they're not looking for a cloud-based toy that they can play with and interact with. They're looking for modern, enterprise-grade AI. And so to me, that means dependability, reliability, stability. And so at GV, we're really excited about investing in all of the layers underneath the really powerful applications that will power our next generation of companies.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you clearly see it as there's going to be an ecosystem, there's a stack here, right, which is going to actually be dependent on the success here, right? It's going to be important to deliver that.
Totally. I mean, at GV, we pride ourselves on having more questions than answers, so I won't stand up here and tell you, all of the different applications that will be successful in AI. But I do know that, there's probably 3 or 4 major layers of that AI stack that will be developed over the coming years. We're excited to have exposure and investment in each one of those layers. Samba Nova is an extremely important one in that you guys you present an entire system. Right, so from the chip all the way up to the applications that power businesses.
Oh, okay. So Rodrigo, probably a lot of people are already aware, right? Some major announcements from Samba Nova this morning, right? So maybe you can talk to us a little bit about those, not just what they are, but why, right? I mean, building new chips and things takes a long time. So you've placed some bets. Why, and where is it going to take us?
Well, we chose this forum so that we could actually announce it only to all of you. Nobody else. But no, we're super excited about this. So I actually brought one of these. So the world's been talking a lot about chip shortages. How do I get more AI chips? And all the fuss, we're talking about finding these things. And so these are the chips that power the largest models in the world. At Samba Nova, we just announced today at SN40L. This is a purpose-built chip, so you can power the largest GPT LLM models in the world. And so with these platforms, we can now power 5 trillion parameter models, right, which is ultimately the types of models that you want in order to deploy into the types of large companies where it's mission critical, where accuracy matters, right, where security matters, where data privacy matters. And so really excited about this. We deploy them in these integrated systems full stack, so you don't have to hunt around for the chips. And Dave talked about reliability, predictability, availability. But when we deploy these, they're always there because they're dedicated to that particular use case. So we're really excited about this. It's been in the works for a few years. And today we're announcing them broadly. They're available for us to actually deploy starting today. And so happy to engage with folks and come check it out on our website. We're really, really proud of it.
Right. Thanks, Rodrigo. So, Alan, when Rodrigo talks about that, right, and we hear about trillion parameter models and things like that, what does it mean to you when you're actually looking to the needs that you have in a business?
Yeah, it's really important to us, and it ties back to the idea of pervasive AI or ubiquitous AI, and it's AI everywhere. Our mantra in Analog Devices is to be ahead of what's possible. And if you really want to do that today as an enterprise, you really need to think of how AI can touch every aspect of the business, right? How can you use it to garner more customers, to understand your customers? How can you use it, for instance, in your front office and in your back office? And how can you use it to design your chips or your software or whatever else that you have to do that your company is producing? And thinking about that both from the high level and then getting down to the details is one of the things that really attracted us to Samba Nova, right? Is that ability to really be on the leading edge of AI technology and to have the largest and robust models and underlying technology available currently.
So Rodrigo, I want to go back to you because Alan talked there about effectively these multiple functions, these multiple domains within a business. I often think this, when we think about healthcare, we automatically think about hospitals, right? And yet a healthcare business has an enormous amount of other things going on in it. And I think about Alan's business, right?
Yeah.
And part of it is actually building these devices, and but part of it is actually also just running a day-to-day business. So how does what you talked about today, not just on the chip side of things, but on the models, actually support that?
I know, we're really excited about this. This is where partnering with somebody like Analog Devices is so important because these are complex enterprises that have been around for a long time with a lot of mission-critical applications. And so the way we think about this, and we're really excited about this architecture, we call it the composition of experts. And so you can build these trillion parameter models where they're made up of open source models. And today we use Llama 2, right? As you know, Llama 2 is a meta release model, and we're all in on open source. You can take these models, you can compose them side by side, each trained for a specific task, a specific function in the enterprise, be able to put them together as a trillion parameter foundation model that then allows you to then have the machine select which expert to answer. It gives you several things. One, it gets the highest accuracy. Right? It gives you the ability to actually train those models dynamically, asynchronously, and you can actually fine-tune, some fine-tune for days, some for fine-tune for weeks, right? And so you can asynchronously do that, but most importantly, it gives you access control, right? That different people can query different experts because you have access to, say, the HR expert versus the legal expert versus the customer expert. And so for enterprises that's complex, as ADI, and being able to actually handle all of those things, it's a tremendous type of platform that allows you to actually have that level of control and that level of flexibility.
Okay. So Dave, coming to you, right? Again, you observe this whole ecosystem, right? And you kind of laid out before the opportunities that you see. There's multiple pieces that are going to come together. What opportunities does this address? What gaps does it address? And what do you still see to come? What's the challenge to Rodrigo now for the next phase?
So I think one of the amazing things about Samba Nova is their ability to continually keep up with state-of-the-art on the hardware side, but it's also the ability to continually loop in the best of open source models. So if you can imagine, every model will continually come out and be open sourced over time. Eventually, each model will make its way into the market. This company has the ability to, like NVIDIA, continually be at the cutting edge of compute. And unlike NVIDIA, have a software stack from the chip all the way up to PyTorch and TensorFlow, the places where data scientists spend their time and energy. And that holistic, that whole system approach, it's almost like Apple providing you with a MacBook. This is like a MacBook, but for your data center. And the thing that I get excited about is not just the chip. Rodrigo's background is in hardware, and he's, the company has a mix of hardware and software. The thing I get excited about is the trend that this company's on, which is state-of-the-art hardware, best-in-class open source models, and an amazing software team that sort of bridges between those two best-in-class approaches.
So, Alan, when you think about when you're getting started here, you've mentioned before about these different domains. Rodrigo talked about privacy and the ability to have kind of role-based access, right, which I think maps to those functions you've got. What's the tension that you see here between, I guess there's a speed of getting started, and then there's all of those other considerations you've got to take into account as well. So as a business, where do you begin? Where do you start?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question, and we're going through that right now at my company, so it's something that we're doing. And, one of the things and one of the reasons we're partnering with Samba Nova is the scalability, right? You have the ability to start relatively small, but then you can go up, of course, with at least today, up to 5 trillion parameter models. And that's important to us, but there's a lot of vectors to consider here, right? There's we have a digital healthcare unit, as you pointed out earlier. That's important. Of course, security and privacy are really important to any business when it comes to data. And when we think of how to get started, I mean, flexibility is really the key, right? We want to make sure that, the Samba Nova systems, we're starting actually with cloud, and then we're bringing it in so we can actually integrate it with all of those business functions and things that we listed before. Not en masse, you don't have to do everything all at once, but you can bring it in as needed for those groups, in the enterprise that are farther ahead, and then bring in the others and scale as appropriate for the business.
Rodrigo, I saw in the press release this morning, there's something there about the fact that this provides the opportunity for multimodality in a way that we previously wasn't possible. And I was wondering if you get into that, because of course we're talking here about LLMs, right, large language models, and then we're talking about multimodality. So how does that happen, and what does it actually do for real world use cases in this case?
Well, I mean, as we think about these models, and Dave touched on this, right, these are open source models that all of us here, right, all of us are innovating every day. Right, and they're getting better at this exponential rate. And so you think about language models now moving into vision models and moving into models that are doing a broad range of things. Now you can do two things if you're thinking about actually taking advantage of those. You can actually try to make these big monolithic lifts where you go from this type of model to that type of model as they upgrade. Or our thesis here is, why don't we create a platform that allows you to incrementally install these open source models, train them, and then you compose them into these foundation models that give you the multimodality, right? It's a much easier way for people who are already using AI, and enterprises do a lot of work verifying those models, integrating those models. It's a much easier way for them to start the journey and not have to get to a new model and reset and start over. Right, and so that's kind of our thesis as a company, that on how enterprises want to integrate these multimodal models, not as a big monolithic lift every time a new model shows up, but how do I incrementally get better and better and better and get incrementally better capabilities as the innovation of our open source community continues for the next 10, 15 years.
Okay. So Dave, we're obviously, Samba Nova's made these announcements today. We've got a room here full of, businesses of all different shapes and sizes, right? So again, you look at this overall market. When we're looking into this era where AI is going to become more widespread, are there new areas? Are there areas that you see are particularly ripe for future development by startups and other businesses, right? What's hot?
Yeah, so I mean, within our partnership, we think that anything that is done well with software today can be done even better with AI in the future. It's a matter of time before we close that gap. Right. There are also a lot of 0 to 1 capabilities. There are things that could never be touched before by software. The data was too big. The insights were too complicated to get to. So you can imagine tracking weather patterns, understanding human genomics. You can now do that in one system. And there are a bunch of other 0 to 1 applications that we're talking with large banks and enormous customers with that are very exciting. Those are exciting to unlock, but the reality is that almost every business is using AI to compete. And those that aren't using AI to compete might not be around in the next couple decades.
Right, so that's the opportunity. So, Alan, I suppose coming to you here, what's your challenge to Rodrigo, right? Like, I mean, what are you looking for next? Not just from Rodrigo, I suppose, but again, from all of the startup founders and entrepreneurs that we've got in the audience today. What do you need in order to make this potential revolution a reality?
You really need to push the limits of heterogeneity, not just on the chip, but in terms of multimodality, right? We need to be able to have state-of-the-art language models, but at the same time, without any downtime whatsoever, instantly add in the compute and things that we need and have it to understand and evolve as more and more use cases create. If one thinks of, I mean, you talked about the incremental addition, but also federated models and adding new data and doing other things and training on the fly. It's that ability of taking everything that we have right now and building upon it and building upon it and building upon it. That's really, in my opinion, the future of technology.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's a great chance for us to collaborate, and this is kind of these partnerships are just so important, just because folks like Alan really help guide us. They guide us on what to do next, and we put some in our software stack. Some of them we embedded all the way into the chips, and so it's a great way that we learn from our partners, and we learn to figure out what our clients need.
Well, I want to thank our three panelists here. I want to thank all of you for coming. I feel like we've understood the potential that we're now seeing at Pervasive AI, right? As I said before, there's a tremendous amount of potential and hype that's going on here, but we're now beginning to see this move into production reality. I think we heard from Alan here about the diversity in models and capability, as well as the reliability and predictability that's required in a real business that's actually trying to do this. And then Dave, I think you're seeing not just the potential that Samba Nova shows, but the gaps in the ecosystem that are going to need to be fulfilled. And thank you, Rodrigo, for joining us, giving us an insight into the announcements today. And thank you all for joining us. Thanks very much.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thanks.